A little bit of hyperbole there, I hope. Joining us to review the first week of Donald Trump's second term is the former Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy. Welcome, Mr. Speaker. Happy birthday, by the way. Let's start with the trips to North Carolina and California. Helene left a path of destruction. Trump came and he gave folks hope and he promised help. Your part of the world has been devastated as well, but you and Trump warned Gavin Newsom years ago that this could happen again.
You're correct, Trey, and we went out in 2018 after a devastating fire, and we spent time with Gavin Newsom and Jerry Brown at the time. 85 people had died in the Paradise Fire, and then we flew down to Malibu to another, and I was in the room when President Trump would sit there and tell you, you're going to have a fire, you're going to have wind, but if you don't have the fuel for the fire to continue, it will not be as dangerous. And he lectured Gavin on what needs to do, and Gavin has failed. Now, I just talked to the president yesterday morning, and think about what he did on that one day. He went to North Carolina, which has been devastated and almost ignored. Then he flew clear across the country to California, toured throughout. He sat with those who had their house burned down. He's fighting for them so they could get in and see what's left. But also, we had a long conversation yesterday morning how to rebuild. He's going to take some actions next week because in California, it could take us 5 to 7 years to rebuild this. He does not want to see these poor people go through that. He wants to make sure they can rebuild quickly and waive whatever they need so they can get their families back together, because it's more than just homes. You had schools burned down. You had fire stations burned down. It looks like a war zone.
All right, let's switch over to Congress, to your old job. March 14th is an important day. How is the House going to navigate running out of money, raising the debt limit? I mean, Trump asked the House to deal with the debt limit before he took office, and 30 Republicans said no. They rejected his entry. So what are they going to do in March?
Well, it's very concerning to me because what President Trump has to now deal with is last year's funding. This is all things that under Biden. So he's got to do the funding now, and he wants to get on with his agenda, and he needs to deal with the debt ceiling. So for the American public, what they have to understand, this is like President Trump is taking over a business that has been failing. He needs capital to make sure it can get going, and he's got Doge going to have savings. He's got a tax bill going up. He needs to get this off the table to make sure the funding bills from last year are done, get that debt ceiling waived going forward, and then he's got to take care of the disasters at the same time. California is going to be expensive, but he wants to make sure California gets the resources. We talked about this, but we want to make sure it's going to the people who need it. He's got to get all that done by March so he can make sure it doesn't slow his agenda. At the same time, he's got to get his cabinet confirmed over in the Senate, which Senator Thune is doing a very good job. He's holding them in and holding their feet to the fire and getting a new person each and every day almost.
All right, Mr. Speaker, I think tomorrow President Trump is going to get a taste of what your old job was like. He's going to go speak to the House Republican Conference. What should he tell them? Because they have a narrow margin. No one in the world knows better than you do what it's like to deal with that body with a narrow margin and all of the Instagram stars that currently serve in the House. What should his message be? Because he's only got 2 years and a narrow majority. What should he tell them?
They have to stick together. They got to stop looking at themselves individually and what they personally get. They've got to get the job done together because they really have 2 years to make this all happen. And since President Trump has been sworn in, the majority has even gotten smaller because Michael Waltz has gone in as National Security Advisor. Those 2 seats in Florida won't get filled to April 1st. So there is no room for error. There's no room for people to pout. There's no room for fighting. President Trump had a very big election, bigger than what the Republicans had in the House and the Senate. And Trey, for the first time in modern history, the majority in the Senate is bigger than in the House. And when you go to do reconciliation, remember Article 1, Section 7, because you're a great attorney, All tax reform starts in the House. But they have to start by doing last year's funding. They got to focus on going forward, making sure the border's secure, making sure they get energy where they can build and make sure the price of gas comes down, making sure they get the tax bill done correctly. So they can't be fighting among themselves, because if one or two get upset, it all collapses upon itself. And really, President Trump is the leader. He laid out the agenda. People need to work together to make sure they get it done.
He's also going to be talking to a group of people who, some of whom are running for higher office, and some of whom have very short memories. You helped some of them. They didn't remember it. He helped them get elected. They won't remember him either. So I hope he gets their attention when he talks to them. By the way, you look fantastic for 90. Happy birthday again, and I hope I see you soon.
Well, thank you, Trey, and I will always be your younger friend.
You take care of yourself, Speaker.